the sound, tuning in for change.
Hello, how's it going? You're listening to the first ever show of Meditation for Misfits. And these are the dulcet tones of your fellow Misfit host, Chinn. I'm going to be doing a show. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm a newbie at Kind of Sound Radio. I've been invited to come and do a bi-monthly show, and I'm going to be on here every second Wednesday at 11 a.m. UK time. It feels really special to be here, and I am going to, in the next few months, be interviewing some really wonderful people. Meditations for Misfits is my business. It's a heart-led business. And what I do is I empower young folk with mindful superpowers, and I also support adults by helping them learn how to meditate with their kids. And they can also train with me to learn how to become a kids and teens meditation teacher, which is what I did, the training I did a few years ago. So Meditation for Misfits, what we're going to be doing on this show is, in the next few months, I'm going to be interviewing some of the young people that I get the pleasure and honor to work with. And I'm also going to be interviewing some adults who work in similar fields as well. However, what we're doing today, and for me, this is a really interesting challenge, and it feels really personal and also quite vulnerable, is I'm going to be sharing my story, which I've done before on social media, but not in such depth, and not in a space that's so new for me. So expect vulnerability and transparency, and a lot of heart, because this is how I work and this is how I show up in the world. And in general, what I want to bring you with this show is content, mindful superpowers, as I like to call them, inspiration, interviews, guided meditations. And in general, this show is going to be pragmatic, yet playful, which is a big approach that I have in life, and with a sprinkling of magic. What else I want to tell you? Us misfits need each other. And I'm going to tell you a little bit today as well about my story and reclaiming this word misfit and changing the name of my business to Meditation for Misfits, actually. And on my website, there's a phrase, there's a picture of a teenage girl with these huge, big, like rainbow-colored fluorescent wings. And then underneath, there's this phrase. And it gives me goosebumps even saying it, which is, we were never meant to fit in, we were meant to stand out. So what I do and what I hope to bring here as well is cultivating community and cultivating belonging for other folk like me of all ages. So maybe you're an adult and you're listening to this and thinking, God, yeah, I'm a misfit too. This is for me. Or you've got kids in your life who are misfits and who struggle with being misfits. And you're looking to have mindful tools for them and things to help them shine and thrive as their truest versions. That's a big mission of mine. This is a place where being weird is celebrated. I love using this word as well. There's loads of different synonyms, let's say, for misfit, like being weird, being an oddball, being quirky. And I've learned to love them all, and especially love this word in the English language, quirky, because I think it really defines me, and it defines the people that I surround myself with on a professional and a personal context. And these are the kind of people that I'm going to be interviewing over the next few months. Something else that's super important for me before I go on and I tell you a little bit about my story, there's a phrase that one of my young students said to me. She was 11 at the time. She's called Ethel. And this phrase is going to inspire a short text that I want to read to you, which is a little story that I wrote. And I will be forever grateful to Ethel for bringing me this wisdom from her 11-year-old, wise, at the same time innocent being. Because for me, it defines a lot who I am and how I show up in the world. And the phrase is this: if you don't show up in the world as your true self, you'll never find your tribe. And my jaw hit the floor when she came up with this phrase. And I thought, what? Turns out she's had a conversation with her cousin, who's just a wee bit older, maybe like 16, 17, 18 years old. And her cousin had said, look, you know, I'm living by this advice. See how it works for you. And Ethel was like, this is how I'm living my life. And I'm accepting that I'm different. And sometimes I'm in this group and sometimes I'm in this other group. And I just thought, yes, this is the kind of world I want, where we can all be our truest versions and embrace that, no? So when we're different, when we're misfits, we need each other and we need tools to support each other to do that, you know? And I know that when I show up, like I'm doing today, doing this new thing, muddling through, being vulnerable, talking about being an oddball, then I hope I inspire other people to do that. And also I'm at peace with myself because I'm showing up as my misfit truest version, right? So I've talked generally about who I am. Usually when I do kind of speeches or I do some sort of live on Instagram or Facebook or what I'm doing today, I I often have a plan and then I often go off piste, and I've already done that. So we're going to see where the next hour takes us. This is going to be an adventure we go on together. Thank you for your time and for listening as well. And let's see what this next section is all about. So I want to tell you about my story, and I'm going to do that first in a quite direct, succinct way, and then I'm going to pad it out. I wrote a text, and this was meant to be for a short introduction to who I am, my story, and my why, not why I do this work, why meditation for misfits, why supporting young folk with mindful superpowers. So I wrote this text and I worked on it for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then I've never got around to making the video, but you know what? This text, when I read it, it gets me emotional. It summarizes so many parts of me. Okay. And I think I might have forgotten to say at the start as well that the show today is called This Is Me, because I think in the work that I do, and so there's context for you folk who are listening to me for the first time, then before I bring on guests, it's super important to talk about my story and why I'm passionate about what I do and what's the motor behind it. Okay. So here's my little story. I want to tell you a story about a young Scottish girl. She is a playful, strong-willed and inquisitive being, a wild, free thing. Her natural habitat was playing barefoot in nature. Her favourite things were swimming, making fires, dancing, adventuring and hugs. She was fabulously quirky from the offset. But when she reached her teens, she realised that her natural way of being went against the grain. So she began to suppress her quirkiness and strived to fit in. However, conforming made her miserable and anxious. The joy left her heart and the light left her eyes. Her self-esteem plummeted. During those turbulent years, however, she never gave up. She experimented with many mindful tools that helped her find a way out of that dark place. She began to heal and even thrive. And though it felt scary, she realized she just needed to be her oddball self. So she did just that. And amazingly, she started to meet other folk like her. That girl was me. Pretty obvious, I know. I speak to you now, 25 years on. My name is Alice. My natural habitat is playing barefoot in nature. My favorite things are swimming, making fires, dancing, adventuring, and hugs. These days, I celebrate my quirky ways and I reclaim my difference as valuable. This is me. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that when we dare to show up as our truest versions, we do eventually find our tribe. So if you want, I'm just going to put a hand on my heart. I do this sometimes when there's something powerful or emotional that's just happened. and I want to just let it integrate. I might do this several times throughout the show. So I'm just going to take a couple breaths. Okay, thank you for listening to something that is, for me, incredibly personal and also really powerful. I feel so honored, and it is such a pleasure to do the work that I do today. And it wouldn't be for everything that I've experienced. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't do this work. Because there's that teen, I talk about her light, the light left her eyes and her being, and that forms part of who I am. And unfortunately, I suffered for so long because I didn't have access to the tools that I'm able to give to young people these days. And that for me is what keeps me going. It keeps me going when I have to do parts of my business as well that I'm not such a fan of, like the marketing or the finance. No, I work with young people, mostly doing private sessions, and I do them online and in person. And just seeing how someone can learn to trust me and to see that the mindful superpowers that I am giving them are transforming their life. And this is like a mindful toolkit that they can take with them, doesn't weigh anything. And they can walk with that and be supported by that mindful toolkit for the rest of their lives and avoid the amount of suffering that I had. Or if you're an adult as well, who perhaps my story resonates, you'll know what it's like. We've got a lot of baggage and a lot of things to work through, and I'm still working through mine, you know? And I'm very good at my job. I can do the two things. I've healed enough, you know? So I wanted to share that as a bit of general context. I think there's some other things before I talk a little bit about how I work, where I trained, and what my day-to-day work life looks like. Just a bit more random context for you. I just turned 40. That felt like a really beautiful age to turn, and I'm so up for this decade. I would consider myself to be an activist and a feminist, and I would say that meditation is actually such a powerful way to show up in the world as an activist, because meditation allows us to and gives us the opportunity to question things. And this is me showing my age. You know that song, and I don't have it actually. I'm not playing it today, but I must play it in another show. Proud by Heather Small, and there's a phrase in that song that says, "To question is to grow." Meditation does that for us, and it allows our young folk to do the same. No? I work with young people. I work with a lot of parents, mostly mums, interestingly, and at the same time, I'm child-free by choice. I am an auntie to 3, and I'm a guide parent to 2. So guide parent is like a godparent without the religion. It's an honor to play this role to these little people in my life that range from the ages of 7 months to 8. And I consider the role of an auntie and a guide parent to be an absolute honor, and I love doing that and being able to dedicate so much time to it because I don't have kids of my own. And I think that I'm able to do the work I do as well, so objectively perhaps, because I don't have kids of my own. But I know there's many other people who work in the work that I do, and they do have kids. No, so it's lovely that there's so much diversity and so much going on in this world. I also don't like, I know that you will have heard my accent and probably be able to identify it as Scottish. I actually live in a wee town near Barcelona, and I've been here since 2012. and I have an orange cat called Pumpkin, who is an absolute delight and a wonderful meditator. When I'm doing private sessions with kids at home, he often comes along, and it's a very interesting conversation to have with the kids, that when we are relaxed and balanced, the cat will come. And when we're hyperactive and a bit nervous and a bit stressed, he will usually run away. All right. We're going to do a wee bit more talking before we get to my first song. And this first song is so good. But I just want to tell you a little bit more. And then we're going to enjoy some music. So I've talked to you about meditation for misfits. And meditation for misfits is a heart-led business. And the fact that I can call it that, and the fact that I'm able to work from my heart, is thanks to the wonderful international program that I trained on, which is called Connected Kids. And it's thanks to Lorraine Murray, who is the founder of that program, that I am here in Connected Kids. Lorraine has also got her own bi-monthly show, which is also going out on Wednesdays, but in the evenings, I think. And hers starts next week. And she also put me forward for this. So I'm hugely grateful to Lorraine. I'm hugely grateful to Connected Kids as well for everything that it has shown me over the years. I was falling asleep one night about 7 years ago and got this idea that came up from within me, like, you need to learn how to teach meditation to kids. And I thought, what? At the time, I was teaching English as a foreign language. I wasn't passionate about it. I was very good at it. And then I just followed my intuition, and that's something that I've developed massively thanks to my Connected Kids training. And my intuition took me to Lorraine. And the Connected Kids program is all about working with kids from our heart and from our intuition, with creativity, with playfulness, and with passion, and meeting them where they're at. So thanks to Connected Kids, I've been on this huge journey and now have my own business where I have called it something that's so personal to me that I sat on it for about a year, this idea of meditation for misfits, because I thought, people aren't going to understand, people are going to reject it, people are going to, it's too specific. And some people have told me they don't like it. So many other people have said, thank you, I'm a misfit. With you, I belong. And for me, that is just goosebumps all over my body, So what do I do in Meditation for Misfits? What is the focus of my work? I actually train people now in the Connected Kids program. So as a parent or a carer, you can learn how to guide heart-led meditations, create and guide heart-led meditation for the young people in your life, for your kids. And these meditations are going to meet their emotional needs. They're going to help them reduce their stress and anxiety. And for me, the most important, helping them thrive as their truest versions. And then you can also learn to become a Connected Kids and teens meditation teacher with me. So I now train people in the course that I did. And I can't believe that I'm at this stage. It's wonderful, and it's incredible, and it's amazing. And then I work directly with kids. Sometimes I do group sessions. Mostly I do in-person sessions, online and in person, sorry. And I do them here in my local community in La Floresta if they're in person. Online is obviously the whole world. Got a few clients in Switzerland randomly. And then I also work, when I go back to Scotland, I take my work there as well. I'm from Cooper in Fife. For me, the main drive for what I do is through meditation and mindfulness, empowering kids with these mindful toolkits so that they can accept who they are, so that they can come into balance, and so that they can shine and thrive as their truest versions. And then supporting their adults, and especially the misfit adults, to have their own self-care tools, and to give them tools to be able to support themselves first, and then also the kids in their lives as well. So I think that's enough talking for this first section. I've probably gone a little bit over time. So we're going to go in with the only song I could possibly put in this first section, which is a song called This Is Me. I find this song so powerful. I've cried to it several times. It's by Kesha, and it's from The Greatest Showman musical. I'm a huge musical fan. So we're going to pop this song on now, I think Django's there to do that for me. Enjoy, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Kind of Sound Radio, the station for a global community.
Welcome back. This is Alice here from Meditation for Misfits, here every second Wednesday at 11 a.m. UK time. And I was just having a little dance there to This Is Me. It's a song that fills me with love and power and hope. I love musicals and cheesy music, so I really hope you found that uplifting. And if you've never heard it before, get that song back on. I just find it great, right up my street. So in the first section, I've been telling you a little bit about who I am, a little bit about Meditation for Misfits, my business. I've talked generally about this show and what I hope to bring, and the fact that most of the shows I do are going to be with interviews, and that today it was really important for me, in my own authentic, slightly rambling at times way, to tell you who I am, to be vulnerable, because I think vulnerability is a strength, and I learned that time and time again, and I hope that inspires other people to do the same. I wanted to tell you my story, the motor behind the work I do, and why I'm so passionate about it. If you missed the first part, Meditation for Misfits is all about empowering young folk and their adults with mindful superpowers. So young folk, especially who don't fit in, hence the name Meditation for Misfits. And often the adults are misfits as well. And empowering them with meditation and mindfulness, mindful toolkits, as I love to say, so that they can shine and thrive as their truest versions. Because we deserve to be able to be at peace with who we are and to be able to stand out. And there's something really important as well that I want to speak about. And we're going to do a little game in this section, actually, if I manage to keep my timing right. Fitting in is not the same as belonging, right? And we often do the first one to try and obtain the second one. So we often try and what I did when I was a teen, and sometimes I still find myself doing it as an adult because nobody is perfect. We often try and fit in because we're desperate to feel the sense of belonging. And for me, this is a huge driver behind what I do, both in providing community for the adults that I support in my business, and here on this show, is to provide community and belonging for us adult misfits. Because when you don't fit in and you choose to stand out and be different, that can sometimes be uncomfortable. It can be difficult. You might be marginalized. Even if you are embracing your truest version, which feels wonderful because you're at peace with yourself, we need our tribe, right? So let's go back to that quote from my student Ethel. No, if we don't show up as our truest versions, we'll never find our tribe. So what I hope to do through this show is provide, it's a phrase I used at the start, no? Provide content that is pragmatic yet playful with a sprinkling of magic. Pragmatic and playful with a sprinkling of magic, I think reflects quite a lot my Scottish roots and Scottish culture. And I had to bring this in the first show, that if you didn't know this, that unicorns are the national animal of Scotland, which is wonderful. I think that represents so much who I am and the work I do as well, because unicorns are misfits, right? And they're also magical, but they're also really strong. And I use that a lot as a metaphor in the work that I do, actually, with kids and with adults too, because we need to bring in the playfulness that kids have in the work we do as adults when we're working with kids, because otherwise they're never going to connect and they're never going to engage with the mindful tools that we're giving them, you know? So I want to talk a little bit more, before we do this game, I want to talk a little bit more about the show and what I want to provide for you, because I want it to be useful. Today's quite a generic show, and at the same time, what I have learned in my work, and therefore what I bring to this show with the knowledge and the wisdom I have, is through other people telling their stories as well, other adult misfits and the kids that I work with, I would love, and my intention is to inspire other misfits, whether they're young or old or big kids, as I like to say, because we feel seen when we hear other people talking about their stories, when their story resonates. You know, we feel seen, and that's really important, and that creates belonging, and that creates a sense of community and connection. And we all need that, and we all want it, and we are all worthy of it. And I also want to provide mindful tools for adults, so that I can help you support your emotional and social well-being. And something I'm really excited about, actually, is this idea of breaking the generational cycle. So I've talked about suffering, you know, all suffering and the baggage I have and that I'm working through for all the years of poor mental health and of not accepting who I am and all this stuff. And I think one of my missions with Meditation for Misfits, and what I want to bring to the show as well, is breaking that generational cycle. So providing live meditations and mindful tools for adults like me, so that we can break that generational cycle and we don't pass that suffering on to our kids. And then finally, for the young folk who hopefully will be listening to this show, two things: role models for you. Role models, because I'm going to be interviewing teens that I've worked with and young people that I've worked with. On my second show, I'm going to be interviewing the wonderful May, who is 14 and who's done some sessions with me and has absolutely blossomed. And also other mindful superpowers, both asking the kids and the young folk who come along to my shows to provide us with the coping strategies that they use, and I also bring in some of my own stuff. So the invitation for the adults to listen to this is to learn from the kids as well. In my work, the kids are my biggest teachers. Kids these days are growing up with such a conscientiousness, such a thirst for the kind of conversations that we are having and the kind of tools that I'm providing for them. And that curiosity and that wisdom in them needs to be fed and watered. So that's my life's work, and that's what we're doing on this show. So what we're going to do now, I would love to do a really short guided visualization. And it's just going to be 3 or 4 minutes. So if you're multitasking while you're listening to this, the invitation is to stop. And we're going to play around a little bit with this concept of misfit. What is a misfit? So I'm going to ask you to sit comfortably, or you can lie down if you want. I've done quite a lot of talking. You've done quite a lot of listening, maybe from your rational thinking brain. Now we're going to have a little bit of fun with imagination and creativity. Huge part of my work. So if it feels okay for you, I invite you to close your eyes. And take a couple of breaths. Just notice your breath. Notice the air as it comes in and it comes out. You don't need to change it. And I'm going to ask you to imagine that in front of you there is a clove of garlic. However, there's one section In fact, it's not a clove of garlic, it's a whole head of garlic. It's a whole head of garlic, but there's one clove missing. So notice the head of the garlic, its shape, its colour, its size. There's one clove missing, and in its place, there's a perfectly shaped little mandarin segment. And it fits exactly into place. It's the right shape, it's the right size. And I want you to think about the phrase, just because you fit in doesn't mean you belong. How does that resonate for you? Have you been this person? So in your imagination, we're going to imagine liberating and freeing this mandarin segment. Are you going to imagine placing it in the earth? And then really quickly, what blossoms is a tree. And it's not necessarily a mandarin tree, it's whatever tree you want to imagine. And this tree shoots up and it's big and it's strong. And you realize actually that it's always been there, you just couldn't see it. You notice its size, the textures, the colours. What type of tree is it? And then you look beyond your tree and you realize that you're surrounded by trees, and every single tree is different. And isn't that diversity beautiful? Some are big, some are small, some are evergreen, some are fruit trees, some are young and some are old. So you sit at the base of your tree and you imagine the roots, which are also your roots. And you realize as the roots go deep and wide, providing stability and safety, you realize that these roots are all interconnected with the other roots. So all these wonderful, diverse, different trees that represent all the wonderful, diverse, different people in our lives, every one unique. They're all connected, interconnected. So allow yourself, give yourself permission to feel that connection and that belonging and that strength. And breathe it into your body. And take a couple more breaths there as you notice how you're feeling. You can let the tree image fade away. And then slowly you can come back. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. I would love to know how that was for you. I'm going to give you details how to reach out and contact us at the end of the show. Right now, we're going to go straight in with a wonderful song that comes from 1993. So I was 10 when this came out. Another uplifting song. And for me, I've chosen this song because the revolution starts on the inside. We have the power and the strength inside our bodies. And all we need is a key to open up to those mindful superpowers that we hold inside of us. So, of course, the song I have chosen is I Got the Key, I Got the Secret by Urban Cookie Collective. Enjoy.
Kinda sound radio. We're tuning in the change.
Welcome back, lovely listeners. These are the dulcet tones of Alicechinn, your host on Meditation for Misfits, here every second Wednesday at 11 a.m. UK time. We are in the final stretch of the show. It's flown by and it's not over yet. I just really enjoyed that song. As I said at the start, before the song, I was 10 when that came out, and I just remember jumping about to it at school discos. And that song just for me has a wonderful, uplifting, retro quality to it. If you're someone young listening to this, maybe you're hearing this song for the first time, or maybe this song's already had a comeback and I'm not even aware of it. I hope you find that song enjoyable, uplifting, and I've decided to choose songs as well that we want to get up and dance to. So especially with the last song that I'm going to play today, my invitation would be to get up and dance. All right? To get up and dance. So what are we going to do in this section? I want to give you a mindful superpower that's really accessible for young folk, and it's something that you can play around with them, and that you, the adult, will also feel benefits of this mindful superpower. So what is this mindful superpower that is so accessible and also so powerful? This mindful superpower is the breath. No one shows us how to breathe, or very few of us have the opportunity, especially from a young age, to learn how to breathe in a way that helps us support our nervous systems, helps us self-regulate, helps us be in the present and bring awareness. So you, the adult, I've got a couple of reflection questions for you. Did anyone ever explain this to you? That when we bring the breath into conscious awareness, it's a superpower. And this superpower can relax our nervous system and help us come into balance. And did anyone empower you with the knowledge that in the most difficult, challenging moments, we will always be able to count on our breath? It will always be there to support us and anchor us in the present. The answers are probably no. And if you do have practices that you do with the breath, or you already play around with the breath with your young people, then wow, that gives me so much hope and inspiration that people are already using the breath. However, let's extend that ripple effect and let's provide simple, accessible tools that can reach as many people as possible. And especially for our young people, right? And if there's one thing I learned from my training with Connected Kids, is you've got to make it fun, creative, and playful, especially with younger kids. Otherwise, they're not going to connect. You know what kids are like. They don't have a filter, especially if they're your own kids. They're just going to be like, Mom, Dad, Granny, this is boring, I'm leaving, you know? So the challenge is, how can we introduce the breath to young people in a way that they're like, this is a cool game. I want to do this. And then with practice, they realize that it makes them feel good. Because kids are wise, connected, inquisitive, curious beings. And if we give them the space and the opportunity to experience these tools, they're intuitively going to use them and reach for them. And that's going to be setting a pattern for the rest of their lives, no? So I'm going to introduce something to you. We're going to do it now because, again, integrity is very important. When you're working with young people, or when you have young people at home and you want to meditate with them, we need to have integrity, which is why I always start with the adults. On this show, I'm definitely going to challenge your idea of what is meditating, your adult rational concept of what is meditating, especially if you've done quite what I would call serious meditating over the years, like Vipassana or these long silent meditations. Like, I'm coming in to break down all those barriers and to give you a new focus and a new way of approaching meditation that is very inspired by the kids I work with. So we're going to try something called balloon belly breathing. Now, I'm sitting up. My invitation would actually be to do this lying down because I think it's more accessible to do it with kids this way as well. So we're going to go straight in. So get your lovely hands and put your hands on your belly. And then the invitation is to imagine that you have a balloon in your belly. And this balloon is of the first color that comes into your mind. And right now, the balloon is small and limp. But with the power of your breath, you're going to inflate it and you're going to blow it up. So you're going to breathe down into your belly and inflate the balloon. And you know it's working because you're going to feel your hands move out. And then when your balloon is to its maximum, then you can let the air out of your body and the balloon gets small again. And let's try this a few more times. It might feel a bit forced. It might feel a bit strange to start with. Breathe into your belly. You're moving your hand out. The balloon is growing big, and then breathe out. You go at your own pace. And let's do this 2 more times. And then you can take your hand down from your belly. And if you had your eyes closed, then the invitation is to open them once again. Okay, so in just 3 or 4 minutes, we've done a lot of different things there with this seemingly simple superpower. Color in meditation helps our bodies come into balance, whatever color we have intuitively chosen. And by breathing into our bellies, so using the balloon, which is more fun for kids, that engages our diaphragm, which automatically sends a relaxation signal to our brain to relax our nervous system. So the invitation is to try this for yourself, get comfortable, and then try it with your kids. It's a wonderful thing to do straight before going to sleep, or perhaps if they've been feeling some really big, uncomfortable emotions, to help them transition out of that. Okay, so it's going to really help them come into balance, calm, less anxiety and less stress. And then doing this over time is going to reduce the overall stress or anxiety or insomnia if they suffer from insomnia. And it's as simple as that. So I hope you find this useful. Use it as much as you want. And please get back to me with any questions or any comments. If you want to reach out, you can get us on the Kinda Sound Instagram. So it's at Kinda Sound. We've also got a Telegram group, which is t.me/KS radio. And believe it or not, that brings us almost to the end of the show. when I was planning this show, I thought, how can I finish the show in a way that gives you yet another mindful superpower and also brings in a really simple practice that anyone of any age can do. So what I'm going to close my shows with is a gratitude practice. And what is a gratitude practice? A gratitude practice is something that I do every day. Maybe you do too. And it's something I love doing with kids as well, and the things they come up with. So the invitation is to take your hand onto your heart. And you can have your eyes open or closed. And if you've got kids there, you can do it with your kids. And we're going to start thinking of things that we are grateful for. And I'm going to invite you to think of 3. And if you find that really difficult, I'm going to give you some examples, okay? No matter how terrible our day has been or how overwhelming everything in the world might seem, or however much stress we've got, or however much little sleep we've had, or however much our young person is suffering for whatever reason, gratitude is such a strong vibration, such a strong energy, such a thing that lifts us up. No, so if it can change things even just 1 or 2%, that is something. Okay, so I've got my hand on my heart, and I might say something like, and you can say this out loud or you can write it down. I'm grateful for the sun shining through the window. I'm grateful for having heating, so I feel warm in my body. I'm grateful for this platform and this opportunity to be on this show and to connect with other people like me. I'm grateful for the delicious breakfast I ate this morning. And I'm grateful for my strong body that took me through the water in the swimming pool this morning. So have a think what your gratefulness things could be. They can be very big or very small. All of them are relevant and valid. And then when you're finished, you can take your hand back down, rest it in your lap. And the last thing I'm grateful for is you listening, for taking the time. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for tuning in to Meditation for Misfits. I will see you here again in 2 weeks with my guest, May, who is 14 and who has a really interesting life story and inspires me no end. And remember, the best thing we can be is our truest versions. We were never meant to fit in, we were meant to stand out. And I'm going to leave you with a beautiful anthem, Treat People with Kindness by Harry Styles, and the invitation is to get up and dance. I'll see you next week. Thank you.